What's going on, everyone? So, Matthew Lillard recently said, Scream 6 to me is too violent. I don't really understand Ghostface running around with a shotgun personally. That's not clever. Well, this is making its rounds, and it's kind of been interesting to see, right? Matthew Lillard is so beloved as an actor, especially in the Scream universe. There's a huge fandom that really wants Matthew Lillard to return, not just as he's kind of rumored to return as AI or in some form or capacity. They want him to return full-fledged Stu Macher, alive and well, ready to take up the mantle as Ghostface and go after Sydney once again. But I do think that this comment is a little silly, in my opinion. Again, love Matthew Lillard, love Stu Macher as a character. I do not want Stu to return as a character. I don't mind them bringing him back in like an AI deep fake type way, but him as an actual character, I just think we're so far removed. Why after 30 years, right? Like I just feel like it's so much to explain, so much. There's just go a new direction, right? Be more creative. But look, I get the idea, right? And I've even talked about. I am okay with Ghostface moving off the knife on occasion, which Ghostface always kind of has, throwing, like Annika with the ladder, or CC Cooper being thrown off the balcony, right? Like Ghostface is always kind of improvised at times, and that's kind of what that scene in Scream 6 was. Got the shotgun and then improvised and started, knocking folks off. I get the idea of like, hey, you don't want Ghostface running around with a gun. It's going to be a quick movie, right? Like the whole point is that it's a slasher film. It's very personal, right? It's the hey, I am going to take you out with, close quarters rather than I'm just going to stand here and pick you off, right? So I understand in that sense. And look, maybe that's what Matthew Lillard meant, right? Like Ghostface running around in a bodega, just, knocking people off is not really, it doesn't really feel very Scream esque, right? I did like the tactical version. It falls into kind of the cop type thing, right? Like kind of gave you a clue that like, hey, it's probably somebody that has some training and knows how to use and operate a gun type thing. So, I don't mind in that element. And look, maybe Matthew Lillard just phrased it poorly, right? Because I mean, if he really means scream like, oh, it's too violent, it's too brutal. Well, one, it's a slasher horror franchise, right? Like, I mean, come on, it's supposed to be brutal. Two, Scream 7 is rumored and reported to be more brutal and violent than any Scream movie in the franchise. So it's like now you're a part of a Scream movie that's supposed to be even worse than that. And three, it's like every Scream movie has been brutal to an extent. I mean, even the classic 96 that Matthew Lillard was in as Stu Macher was brutal for the time. I mean, Casey Becker's scene was brutal. I mean, we just did a thing over on the Night Watch Zone for the Lethal Collective. And we broke down and discussed kind of all the, deaths and kills and stuff like that, right? And Casey Becker's was one that, I brought up, and I talked about how, for standard times, like today's times, yeah, it's a little silly. You're like, the effects aren't as good, right? But for those times, it was brutal. For those times, it was ridiculous because, you're talking about the 96, right? You're talking, almost 30 years ago, right? The effects, but for that time, it was brutal. I mean, Casey Becker is literally strung up and gutted, like testes falling out, just brutal, right? Like those kills, some of those kills were brutal, right? And it was so bad they had to cut like half of it because they were trying not to get an NC-17 because it was so brutal at that time. And so like I again, what are you looking for in a slasher horror film? I look, there's always the extremities. There's people, kind of taking what Matthew Lillard said and going a little too far. Like, it's just like, again, even if he believes that, even if he meant it exactly the way he said it, right? Like again, he's entitled to his opinion. It's fine, right? Like his problem was the shotgun and the gun with the bodega, right? That Ghostface. That was too violent, too brutal. Guys getting shot up. Right? Like to me, again, if it's just the gun element, and I've seen people throw out, Stu and Billy used a gun, and like that's usually how it ends, right? You get shot in the head type thing, right? Like that's kind of Scream. But it's usually at the end, and it's not like Ghostface just running through folks with the shotgun, right? So I get kind of the idea of like, hey, you don't want it to become that, which I don't either, right? I don't, but the problem is we don't know if that's how he meant it, right? Or what exactly he meant by it, right? Maybe, like I said, maybe it was just poorly kind of explained. We've all been there. We've all tried to explain something or an opinion or a thought or something, and just the way we explained it and thought about it just didn't come out the way that we had it in our head. That happens to me regularly, right? Like, as somebody that does and makes content that gives their opinion and, talks various ideas and theories, so like sometimes it comes out perfectly. And I'm like, man, that was actually better than I envisioned in my head. And sometimes you're like, oh, like, maybe I didn't explain that the way that I wanted to. Maybe I didn't explain that the way I should have, right? And, maybe that's the case here, but we don't know. The only thing we know is what he actually said. And, again, to an extent, I agree with him. You don't want Ghostface running around because, again, it'll be a quick movie, right? You don't have to worry about people surviving if Ghostface is just, sneaking up behind them and taking them out, right? Like, but you want to have a balance. Yeah, you want to have the knife element. You want to have, Ghostface, kind of running through people and slicing through people and kind of, keeping the tradition and what makes it a slasher film. It's kind of hard to be a slasher film if there's no slashing, right? So again, I get that. I'm on board. I agree. But again, it depends on, you got to be okay with the violence and brutality because that's what this is. Like the problem that I have is him talking about I don't mind the gun element of it because it's true, right? Again, you can't have a slasher film if he's just using a gun the whole time, right? But the violent part of it and, the brutality of it all, like that's what it's supposed to be. Again, this isn't supposed, like, what is Ghostface supposed to do? Stab somebody, and flowers pop out? Or what is it, Gen V? Where like, he sees like the character, whatever, it like pops out as like, balloons or whatever, or glitter, right? Like, is that how it's supposed to be? Every time Ghostface takes somebody out, it's supposed to just shoot out glitter? Like, kid, it's just, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it's just it was just poorly worded, that he was just kind of talking about the gun element of it. And I can even see it from a sense of like, look at our modern times and just all the gun violence, stuff like that, whatever side you are is not what this is about. I'm just saying, like, I could see him kind of looking at it that way too. I could see people looking at it that way, right? I could see kind of people like, hey, let's stick to the slashing part. But I mean, come on, then you shouldn't make horror movies or anything, period. It's just, I don't know. It's a tough spot to be in. Because we don't really know. Did he mean it exactly the way he said it? Or is there, is it kind of just like, hey, I want to keep, kind of the tradition of Scream alive, which is Ghostface running around with the knife. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.